the modules. Nice one. Where they can see that through both the assignments and the modules index pages. So this does make it a lot easier for students to see what they need to do. It's much more intuitive for them to find and use. And I will say this is just one aspect of peer reviews that we are addressing. So this was released back in March, but we are looking at additional ways that we can improve functionality, particularly extending the capability of peer review and some of those capabilities for what it can actually do, how it's managed, and that usability piece of it as well. So more to come on peer reviews, but excited about this improvement in assignment enhancements. Alrighty, a few things on new quizzes. I thought I would collate these into a single slide because there has been quite a few updates, and this isn't going to cover everything we've done in new quizzes so far this year, but I thought I would highlight a couple of these in particular. The first one being outcome analysis report exporting. And so we have heard a lot from users how important it is to be able to actually take the data out of new quizzes and manipulate that for institutional needs when it comes to making decisions about how effective different course design is within those quizzes and what that looks like. So as of March this year, teachers can now go ahead and download to CSV the outcome analysis report from new quizzes so that you can go ahead and analyze that outside of the system or use through a third-party Power BI or that type of tool if that's what you're needing to do. The second one we released in April, and this is what we did to address the need to grade one question at a time across all student submissions. And so we've done that by introducing a grade by question mode in the Speedgrader setting. So if you click that cog at the top of Speedgrader, you'll see an option when viewing a new quiz to be able to do grade by question. But also it unlocks the new navigation bar for the questions, which you can see on the left-hand side of that screenshot. And really what this is looking to do is improve the efficiency of grading and making it much easier for you to move between submissions for the same question across a student cohort and really hopefully save you as much time as possible in that administration piece. The third area is the improvements for the ease of use in sharing item banks with courses by reducing the number of clicks that are required to achieve that workflow. So in April, when a new user creates an item bank for a new quiz, from that build page, you can go ahead, there's a new checkbox there to be able to just share with the course and the participants within that course at the time that it's being created within the same interface. So it's much more intuitive and means that that's a much easier workflow that we think makes a lot more sense and is in direct response to feedback from customers that was something that was lacking. And the last piece I wanted to highlight, which may be the best of all, I probably should have done this one first, is the introduction of the rich content editor that we know and love from other areas of Canvas to new quizzes. And with that unlocks the capability to leverage all the wonderful features and functions that provides, particularly things like the accessibility checker, ability to add media recordings, add content from third-party tools, change between the classic and HTML view of the rich content editor, use the math editor, and importantly, provides a really clear mechanism for students to record audio and video directly within the rich content editor of a new quiz. So some very powerful capabilities that come with the RCE, and we're thrilled to have that as of June released into new quizzes. Another quick win, I think it's a quick win. It's a delighter. I think lots of people have asked for better ways to improve the interconnectivity of different areas of a Canvas course directly into Speedgrader. We know Speedgrader is a very popular and important component of a course, particularly for teaching staff. And we've heard lots of feedback that users would love to be able to get directly into Speedgrader without having to go through the gradebook. And so this is an enhancement that was released in May, which ultimately allows you to improve the accessibility of Speedgrader from lots of different areas within Canvas. So your assignments index page, module index page, quizzes page, within the editing area of any of those assessment tasks, the discussion space, So really anywhere that you can access a graded task from, you can now see that Speedgrader option from that edit or options menu for that object, which reduces the number of clicks and makes that workflow much more intuitive. So you can jump right into Speedgrader as and when you need. All right. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight for learning preparation and time savers. So there's a couple of things here. Again, there's been a few things that we've released in this space, but these were a couple of things that I thought potentially people might have missed or weren't aware were actually you were able to do in Canvas today. So a maybe seemingly small, but I think a powerful update that we introduced initially back in February, and we've also improved it in May as well. And that is to simplify the content creation process and make Canvas more intuitive for all designers and course builders and anyone out there who is building content in a Canvas course. We introduced the ability to drag and drop, as well as copy and paste content items so that you're more readily able to take content from wherever it is on your desktop or in your file space or somewhere else and be able to actually bring those in either individually or in bulk. So this does support grouping of those files or uploads and bringing them in all together, or just drag and drop, copy and paste of individual files. So that includes, media, audio, PDFs, images, all that sort of stuff. It's not limited to any one type of file. You can do this for anything that you might be looking to add into your course content. And it is important to note that if your course or your group has requirements around usage rights being set before content is added and used in your course, then when you go to actually paste or drop that file into the RCE, then the file upload interface will actually display the same selection of usage rights before uploading that you would expect from adding it any other way, so that you can continue to comply with whatever institutional preferences you have set. And so this was introduced in response to a number of community ideas and things like that related to this topic. So we were really pleased to be able to go ahead and facilitate some more flexibility in how people build their content. And I think it's just intuitive as well. This is how you do it with other applications. So it's great to see that you're able to do this in Canvas as well. Alrighty. The next one is bulk publishing of modules and unpublishing of modules and module items, which personally I'm thrilled about, having been a customer before actually working at Instructure and being in the product organization. This was something that we would often stumble across, or people would, they might publish the items within their module, but not actually the module itself and things like that. So this actually does address a number of different usability challenges and things that we've seen in the past. Because we know from talking to customers that the previous behavior was a bit confusing, and not having the ability to publish in bulk was time consuming when you were setting up your courses. And so just recently in our June release, in fact, we addressed this by offering a solution to reduce the time that designers and course builders are spending setting up, cleaning, readying courses for teaching through a new bulk publishing tool within the modules interface. You can see in the screenshots there on the right-hand side. So the ability to bulk publish all modules or publish individual modules or items within them, as well as the equivalent unpublishing of all modules as well. There is association for this with the existing managed content permission in Canvas. So if users have that permission, they now have that greater flexibility, and it hopefully saves some time and energy in how courses are set up and created in Canvas. Not sure if those questions have come in, Paul, about this topic in particular, but
not specifically. So we might circle back to those.
No worries at all. I did want to touch on something that we have released, which really does target accessibility and how that is experienced for content creation as well as content consumption for end users. And this is looking at a couple of features within Canvas Studio. And so this updated editor we released back in April, and essentially within Studio, it allows teachers to improve that student engagement via a brand new interface. equipping them to be able to not only manage captions better, but also allowing students and end users who are, actually looking at the media to be able to personalize their experience of how that looks and works. So with this, those who are creating the media in studio, whether that's a teacher or a designer or whoever that is for your institution, they can much more readily find, fix incorrectly identified words. So if there's something that is inaccurate in the caption, they can go ahead and search and find those much quicker, but also edit caption timing. They can add new lines of captions in and display those changes in real time. So that's much more user-friendly. But we've also increased the flexibility in how captions appear for those students at the end of the day. So being able to personalize things like where the captions appear on the screen at the top or the bottom of the media, how large they are, as well as also the capability to invert the color of the caption versus the background to better meet accessibility needs across the board. So as I said, this was released back in April and has been really popular with people who leverage captions in studio, but we're also taking the captioning experience one step further. We're shortly going to be releasing support for human captioning in studio. And what this is that it will be able to, it will allow you to be able to use human captioning services within the tool so that all media content is fully accessible and there's no one who's going to be disadvantaged when they are consuming media content. So really excited to take that captioning experience to the next level within Studio. And I think just a couple of things that I wanted to make a quick mention of in terms of a bit of a sneaky peek at some of the things that are around the corner that we're looking to focus on in the second half of the year. Again, this is by no means everything that we could be doing or are doing. Please do check out the public-facing roadmap on Instructure.com so that you can have a look at everything that we're delivering across the product suite. But a few things that I wanted to mention that I'm particularly excited about, and I think our customers will be as well. The first of those being selective module release. And so this is something, some of you might be familiar with the new process that we rolled out earlier this year for the ideas and themes space in the community. And that space is essentially a platform for customers to be able to put their votes forward and put their ideas forward about challenges they're having in the product and things that they'd like us to be able to address. And for people in the community to provide their feedback on those and validate those things or extend those ideas and vote on them. And this year we introduced a more formalized structure for how we thematically group those themes into themes of challenges, and then some structured voting cycles so that people in the community know when they're actually able to really share their voice on these things. And communicate with us what's going to be most impactful to your institution, really. And so the first voting cycle happened in April this year, and there were 4 themes that were nominated on the back of that voting cycle, which has been published in the community. So please do jump in and have a read. Maybe Paul or the team can share some more insights into that in the chat. But this is actually one of those areas that we highlighted as part of those chosen themes. And when a theme is chosen, it essentially means that we are committing as a product org to deliver on value from within that theme within a 6-month period. So when you've told us this is the most important thing for you, we're able to actually come back to you and say, we hear you and we are incorporating that into our roadmap, and we're committed to delivering some value in that space within quite a short period of time, within the next 6 months. And so one of those themes was differentiated learning at scale and how we're able to enable that within Canvas. And so we feel that a foundational piece of that is how we can better support better support differentiated learning is the capability to provide the assignment of modules to a student or a particular group of students within a course. So whether that's, students in a particular section or students in a student group or just individuals that maybe need personalized learning journeys or differentiated content for any reason, this is sort of that first piece of the puzzle of that broader differentiated learning focus that we have. So really excited to be able to support that selective module release and give teachers the ability to map and manage that content in a way that's really meaningful, so people just see what they should see within their course, and exactly that, the navigation and the learning experience for the student at the end of the day to really only be seeing what they should be seeing and what's most meaningful to them.
You basically answered some questions that we had from Mark in the Q&A. So
oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
That's perfect.
We can come back if there's anything additional to those things, but yeah, that is definitely a super, super exciting feature. It's something that we've heard about, and I've had conversations with each of the user groups here in our part of the world, in conversations with vocational providers, with K-12, with higher ed. There's lots of use cases for this across the board, and really, yeah, very excited about what this is going to unlock for our institutions here. The second one that I wanted to make mention of, which is a celebration, particularly for our vocational education customers, but I really do see applications of this for lots of different customers and institutions across the board, is build on last attempt in new quizzes, or the capability to allow students really to focus on the concepts that they haven't quite got right yet, so the questions that they haven't gotten right, and for them to only need to redo those questions instead of needing to redo a whole quiz where they've already demonstrated understanding in a number of questions already. So really, really looking forward to this. I think it's going to have great application, as I said, across the board, but has been a long-term request from our vocational education community here, and really thrilled to see this at the moment targeted to be delivered in Q3, so between the months of July and September. And yeah, looking forward to what that's going to mean for our customers. The third one I wanted to highlight is improvements that we're making to discussions. So some of you may be aware that we have made some improvements through the discussion redesign feature preview. Some of you might have that turned on and are using that, and some of you may not have yet or is just following along. And some of you may not have any awareness that that's a space that we were looking at, but that is an area that we are improving so that we can enhance really the interactions and the flexibility for how discussions are used and the different settings that are applied there, so that we can provide a really robust tool for deep collaboration and more meaningful exchanges within that sort of that discussion space within Canvas. So looking forward to the outputs of that, and yeah, hopefully coming back at the end of the year and sharing a bit more around what we've been able to deliver there.
So just really quickly, we've got a question in relation to selective module release as to when that will be released.
So we are.
I believe you said over the next 6 months, it'll be a focus to release something in relation to that. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So in the second half of the year, you should see this actually come to life within the product and be available for you to use. At the moment, we are in deep design validation phase, and we've already connected with a number of customers across the region here to get their feedback on this around how we're proposing to put this forward. But there's also going to be a second round of that via the community, where there will be some interactive surveys with prototypes, so that you're able to make your voice heard and help us validate if the way we're thinking about solving this is meaningful to you, and any thoughts and feedback that you've got on this. So look out for that. We're actually expecting that before the end of next week. So you'll see that shared in the community, but also I'm sure through your CSM and CSM team and newsletters, etc. So please do keep an eye out if that's something that's of interest to you, because we are actively seeking involvement from institutions so that we are delivering something that's most meaningful for as many people as possible.
And just while we're on the discussions, just a quick question about, will there be pagination for discussions? Is that...
I reckon I know who this might have come from. It is something that we are that we are looking at as part of the discussion improvements. There's a couple of there's more than a couple of things that we're looking at to introduce as part of these improvements, and that definitely is something that's being considered as part of that scope. So happy to follow up on that as well. Alrighty, letter grade only. I'm very excited about this one. If you can't tell, I'm very excited about all of these because they're all really fantastic for our region here and our customers. But letter grade only is essentially a new functionality that allows for more flexibility in how grading information is actually showcased throughout Canvas, and allowing for that grades-based approach based on what is displayed in the grading scheme, as opposed to what's in the grading scheme plus points or percentages, and how that's proliferated in Canvas today. So at the moment, when you're leveraging a grading scheme, you might have for example, in a K-12 setting, you might have an A to E sort of structure, or for vocational education, you might have a binary competent, not yet competent at the task level, or satisfactory, not yet satisfactory. And at the moment, when that shows to the learner and also the teacher, they see that letter grade result, but they also see a point or a percentage. And that's not what some institutions want, which is completely reasonable when leveraging a letter grade scheme. And so we're addressing this by stripping that away and really shifting the focus to be on that, on the grade based on the scheme and the qualitative feedback that's coming through as part of that, instead of on the number or the percentage that's been achieved. And so there will be an account setting and a permission structure that is tied to that, so that you're able to make decisions based on what's most suitable to your institution around how this is managed. So what I mean by that is some institutions just want students to see the letter grade, but they still want teachers to see the points or the percentage. And other institutions, or even areas within institutions, you'll be able to manipulate this at a faculty or a sub-account level. They want teachers and students to only see that, and for points and percentages to be hidden from both. So that's something that you'll be able to do. We are building it to be flexible in that regard. But important to note that the quantitative, the numerics behind that letter grade will still be preserved for reporting to third-party tools and passed back to student management systems and things like that. So it's not that there won't be any numerical data, it's just that it won't be shown to the end users based on how you set up those permissions. There are ongoing new quizzes updates, which is probably a shock to nobody, but there's lots that we have been focused on, and there's more to come in the second half of this year. I mentioned Build on Last Attempt, which will be specific to new quizzes. That's not functionality that is being built into classic quizzes. It will only be available in new quizzes. But there's also ongoing improvements to the API capabilities in new quizzes, specifically around things like accommodations and being able to set up attempts and things like that at the API level, but also speedier reporting capabilities. So the item analysis reporting, which was one of the other themes selected as part of the community idea and theme prioritization piece, that will be a much fresher data coming from those item analysis reports to make them more user-friendly, as well as content management. So being able to take new quizzes and how you're managing that from a templating perspective and using it through some of those workflows that you can't do today. So really solving some of those challenges, as well as anonymous grading and being able to, use that when it comes to new quizzes, as you can with some other areas in Canvas already. So lots of things that we're doing. Again, that's just a subset. There's more that we're doing, but please do check out the roadmap for all the areas that we're focused on there. And the final thing that I'll mention is some expanded studio usage data, which I wanted to mention because we, not too long ago, introduced a brand new interface and revamped understanding of media level insight. So how things are going at the media level, who's interacting when, and making that much more user-friendly. And we also have a sort of light studio analytics that exists today, but this expanded studio usage data piece will provide admins with on-demand access to viewership data and insights that are more easily exportable, as well as stronger coverage across the university within sub-accounts, things like that, so you can have a better understanding and a deeper awareness of how studio is being used across your institution, and hopefully drive adoption based on those different inputs that you're able to recognize. But they were the key things that I wanted to highlight that I think are going to be most relevant to as many of you as possible. But yeah, more than happy to jump into some of the Q&A or any other questions that might come up. Hopefully I'm a familiar face to many of you. I'm definitely not a scary person, so please do jump in and ask your questions, and we'll look to answer as many as we can.
Can confirm the non-scariness of Ruth. So we do have a few questions. Talon, we might have to reach. Can you see the Q&A there, Ruth? We might reach out to you separately.
Sorry about the incomplete post. We had issues with the font of new quizzes titles of the letters with Mary Macron, different bold, different the rest of the letters. Right. Okay. Would love to have a further conversation about that, because that definitely, it might be something that sort of sits in the new quizzes bucket or the translation bucket from a product perspective. So we'd love to understand what that problem is a little bit deeper so that we can go ahead and address that by the appropriate team. So please feel free to share more on that either with your CSM or through support, and we'll make sure that that is addressed.
Yep. Okay.
Any plans for incorporating generative AI to aid teachers in the creation and or management of course content, assessment, outcomes, competencies, gamification reports, etc.? Oh, this is such a great question. I'm so glad that it was raised. And I can't believe I missed it on my list of what we're focusing on in the second half of the year, because this is absolutely a focus for us. I think everyone, or hopefully most people, would agree that AI has been very disruptive and very exciting. And so there's lots of questions around how we might use this for academic integrity, around innovative tools for teaching and learning and what that looks like. And what I will say is we're thinking about it from the sense of, and come with me on this analogy, but we're thinking about this like the dishwasher to your cooking. Some people who love cooking hate doing the dishes. In fact, most people do. And so when we're thinking about AI and how it makes sense in our product, we're thinking about how can we help give teachers time back and use AI in a way where they can focus on the things that they're great at and they love doing and really nurture students in their learning, and let AI take care of the dishes. Let AI help with the things that take time, that you don't really like spending time on, but you have to, and where we can really elevate some of that burden, or remove some of that burden rather. And so we're definitely looking at a myriad of solutions there, and what might make the most sense across, yes, curriculum design, across assessment and feedback, across templating and content curation, and all those sorts of things. And what I will say is there'll be more shared on this at InstructureCon. So keep your eyes and ears open for some announcements on that as in July. But we'll also be covering on that a little bit more in our Canvas Connect conference here in region in August. So yeah, if you haven't already registered, definitely come along and hear a bit more about some of those product updates as well.
Okay, so I think people were interested when they saw selective modules. Any other ways that we're going to be selective with releasing content, individual pages and things like that?
Yeah, great question. So that definitely is something that we're looking at, not just modules, but what makes the most sense in terms of individual content pages. And, like you can do with assignments and discussions and things like that already, we're certainly looking at content as individual pages as well as modules. So both are being considered. And when we land on our final design based on that discovery and the feedback from users through that survey that I mentioned, then we'll have a better scope of what that looks like. But there is a dedicated space in the themes and ideas space in the community for that initiative, the differentiated learning and the selective release of content initiative. And the product manager, who is actually owning the development of that piece, is posting in there for feedback and updates, and we'll keep everyone abreast of the scope of that and what we end up landing on. So please do follow along in the community as well.
Okay, grouping pages. So
yeah, Glenda, I'd love to understand a little bit more about that. If you're able to maybe chat in the Q&A or in the chat area, just with a bit more information about what you mean by that.
Yeah, maybe pop that in the chat.
I'm not sure what that means.
Put some more detail in the chat, maybe separately, and yeah, we'd love to hear more about that. View and download item analysis in new quizzes.
As in, can you do that already? Yeah, can you view and download item analysis in new quizzes? So you can view. No, sorry, I take that back. The outcome you can, but item analysis is a piece that has been missing from new quizzes that has been very popular in classic quizzes. So there is strong focus on that in the second half of the year, which is on the roadmap. You can see that in there. So you'll be able to have really a much more parity experience between the two once that's delivered.
Yep, that is definitely there on the roadmap. We've had some other clients reach out about that. So something that will be addressed in due course.
Immersive reader for discussions and quizzes. Yeah, good question, Daniel. We get lots of feedback around the interest in having immersive reader available in more areas of Canvas. That actually was one of the themes from the most recent voting cycle that actually didn't get as much traction as we were expecting. So that's not something that has been prioritized at this point, but may well be something that we look at doing in the future.
So Glenda's come back in relation to organizing pages. I'm guessing creating like folder structures for pages or something like that to help keep them organized instead of having a long list on the pages page.
Yeah.
Okay, she said yes. Effectively, modules assist with that as far as organizing for the view of your students. Yeah, I don't know if there's any further views on that you have, Ruth.
No, not specifically. We did do some user feedback surveys and sort of scoping opportunities. I think last year we put those out and got feedback from institutions around their needs and preferences with some prototypes in that space. And we ultimately determined that there is a broader challenge around course curation and actually putting your courses together and how content is managed and what that looks like for a student versus a teacher. And so I would say that's a broader theme that we're looking at addressing, and how pages or content is then organized as part of that from the perspective of a teacher would be addressed as part of that theme. So there's no sort of specific deliverables within that theme that we are committing within the roadmap in the next 6 months specifically, but that as a topic is definitely a challenge that we're looking to make headway in and start addressing. Yeah, I understand totally, Glenda. So definitely, I guess at the moment, Canvas looks the same for a student or a teacher in terms of modules and that type of thing, and files and pages. And so it is something where we are looking at essentially rethinking what that might look like. As I said, nothing sort of concrete in what the solution would look like today, but that definitely is a challenge that we're looking to address.
And the question from Michael in relation to admin analytics, new prototype, I'm guessing that's probably in relation to the new filters that are coming out on the 5th of July. And
when you say by Carly last May, I'm not sure if you mean last May,
last month,
or if you mean May just last month. So I think that would be helpful to clarify which you're talking about. Yes, last month.
Last month. Okay.
Right. So the update there, which is available in the blog post that she's posted in the admin analytics space, but essentially we have got an updated filtering experience, as well as some new data points like course start and end date to be able to filter data by those sorts of parameters. And that is being released on the 5th of July. So you can see those updates then.
All right, perfect. It looks like we've gone through all the questions that were there in the Q&A. Thanks so much, everyone, for your participation. There's some really good questions, and I'm sure we've all learned a lot from Ruth today. I know I've learned a couple of things, which I always do with Ruth. But wonderful to have you all, and thank you, Ruth, for sharing so much with us. We really, really appreciate it. We've just launched a quick poll there. If you could share your response in the poll. Just wanted to get a gauge of on your thoughts on the webinar today. So we'll just give you 10 seconds to go through and pop in some answers. And once we get that information, that'll be really, really handy. Thank you. And if there's no other questions, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, everybody.